Hi, Solo Sue here. I wanted to talk a little bit about Disembarkation on Carnival Panorama. So, if you've watched the Day 7 video, you know that they had a Disembarkation Show where people came to see basically what the process was going to be like. They had us go to the theater. They brought the crew in one door and had them all take a picture and everything because, this is the first cruise back, and so it was pretty exciting for them. And then at the end, they had the crew go out one door of the theater, and then they had us go out the other one. And the other one had the luggage tags all on a rack, and it was multiple rows, right? And they were color-coded, and I don't remember if they were numbers or letters, but they were ascending. So they started out at the lowest, and they went along and, went higher. And people were wondering, okay, so what do the letters correspond to, right? And, there was no indication of what was going to be early, what was going to be late, when you wanted to get off, which row should you choose? And so people were kind of mulling about and talking amongst themselves. And finally, one of the crew members came and said, okay, the top 2 rows of tags are the early disembarkation. And I knew that I had an airport transfer, and I had to get off the ship early enough to get that airport transfer. And so I was able to get one of the ones from that early group. And then the next day, they basically started calling by luggage tag, and that was when you knew it was your turn to get off, right? So I waited until my turn and wandered off the ship when I was supposed to. And it was interesting because once we got off the ship, we got back into the building, and if you've seen the Embarkation Day video, you know that there was this big switchback, right? Now, I didn't have all my cameras with me. They were all pretty much packed in my carry-on bag already, mostly because I knew that they weren't happy with me last time when I photographed in that building, so I wanted to sort of, be fairly low-key and not have all of my bits out. And so I had all of my cameras except for my iPhone all put away. And so we're standing there on the switchback, and it's packed with people. And, if you saw the video, it switches back and forth several times to get you from the top floor down to the bottom floor. And so I was probably in the switchback for a good 30, 45 minutes easily. And, the mask wearing was not as stringent as it had been on board, and yet we were not socially distanced at all. So that was pretty unfortunate, especially when you understand that, in retrospect, we know that there was, in fact, COVID on the ship. So it would have been good if, people sort of had maintained their vigilance until they actually got off the property. But anyway, so once you get to the bottom floor, you have to go and pick up your luggage. It's, in groups associated with the tag that you chose. And that's fairly straightforward, but once you get it, you're supposed to go back into that line. Now, that line snakes all the way around that building, and then it goes into one of those roped-in lines like you get at the airport, where you go back and forth, etc. All to wait to get to talk to customs. Or you can do what I did, which is they had someone saying, does anybody want a porter? And I said, oh, yes, I want a porter. And so I got a porter who came and had his cart and put all my bags on it and walked me to the one line where the porters were using, where it's just like, a few of us who got porters waiting to talk to the one customs guy dedicated to the porter line. And I mean, instead of waiting in this long, it would have taken me at least an hour to get through that line, if not longer, I got to walk right out. It was amazing. So yeah, for the price of a tip of, tipping the porter a couple bucks a bag, it was awesome. And so, he waited with me. I walked up to the customs person, showed him my passport. They didn't even have us fill anything out. For the form you sometimes fill out, and they didn't have us do it. And we just walked off. And that was that. And he walked me all the way out to where the airport transfer buses were, and, handed my bags to the driver, and off I went. It was great. So yeah, that is my pro tip for this, is when in doubt, get a porter, because they're awesome. So anyway, that was pretty much what I wanted to let you know about the embarkation process. Now, this is the first ship that was coming back to that port since cruising was paused, so it's not terribly surprised that it was a bit chaotic. It's something that I'm sure they'll sort of iron all the bugs out of and get smooth sailing going forward. So it was just such a difference between having a porter that I really wanted to tell you guys about it. Now, I do ask you if you could possibly like the video, because it really helps the channel. Subscribe to the video. I do have my next cruise coming out. It is Ovation of the Seas, and I went to Alaska, and it is just beautiful, Alaska. If you've never been, you're going to really enjoy this footage. I really enjoyed this trip tremendously. So on to new adventures, and I hope to see you again. Solo Sue signing out.